Hello, Director Taylor. How are you? All right, let's go ahead and get started. So, good evening. We are all set for the live broadcast stream of today's Health and Human Service Committee meeting at 6 p.m. on HPA-TV Comcast and Frontier Government Channels 96 and 6032. It will also be streamed via HPA-TV.org, the HPA-TV Facebook page, and HPA-TV's Roku TV, Apple TV, and Amazon TV apps. It will also be rebroadcast and made available on the HPA-TV YouTube channel. So thank you everyone for joining us here for tonight's Health and Human Service meeting. I'll just introduce everyone in the tiles before me. First, we have the Director of Office of Equity and Opportunity, Director Karen Taylor. Thank you for joining. And then we have Attorney for Corporation Counsel Office, Attorney Minachi Mori. How'd I do? Was that pretty good? Okay, great. Next, we have Councilman James Sanchez. Next, we have from Corporation Counsel's Office, Mr. Attorney Damar Osborne. And next, we have Director of Health and Human Services, Director Liani Arroyo. And next is Corey Deschatels. Did I say that correctly?
You said it right.
Okay, great. I'm doing good. Let me not jinx it. Next is voting member, Councilwoman Marilyn Rossetti. And then next we have Director Nathaniel Gale out of the Chief Operating Office.
Evening.
All right. And then next we have Mr. Todd Bodine. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, Bodwin. Thank you.
Bodwin? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. And Mr. Bodine, you'll be talking about which item?
I'm going to be talking about the Pure Light Clean Air UV product.
Got it. Thank you for joining us.
Yep.
Next, we have Robert Champagne.
I'm working with Tommy.
Okay. And Champagne with an S. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. And then we have Councilwoman Shirley Surgeon. Thank you, Councilwoman, for joining us. So, all right, we'll call this meeting to order. We'll start with item 2.1, which is Mayor Bronin's, with the accompanying resolution authorizing and empowered to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Hartford Healthcare, a resolution concerning a MOU by and between the City of Hartford, Hartford Healthcare, and AARP for the open streets. And I believe Director Nathaniel Gale is here to speak on that item.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Councilman. My name is Nat Gale. I'm the Director of Operations for the City of Hartford. And I'm pleased to be before you all this evening to talk about a program that I'm working with our Director of Planning, Amy Chambers, and I are working hand in hand to develop an open streets program for the City of Hartford for 2022. So, the basics, and, open streets are programs that temporarily open streets to people by making them vehicle free. And they're typically held one Sunday a month. Here in Hartford, we are looking at doing open streets one Sunday a month from May through October in 2022. And the idea here is to provide opportunities for healthy activity, so people can walk, bike, exercise, use the street in any way that they would like, except for having a gas-powered vehicle on it. So it is in line with a couple of different goals and strategies that we have at the City of Hartford. One, our emergence from the post-pandemic operations. We want to find opportunities for our communities to reconnect with one another. That's people who live in Hartford, people who work in Hartford, people who play in Hartford. And it's in line with our goals to focus on the social determinants of health in our communities. So I know that I worked to make a presentation to council members on September 28th in partnership with the AARP. So I know some of you have seen the details of the concept. What is before you today is giving us the authority to enter into a memorandum of understanding with both Hartford Healthcare and AARP to provide some financial contribution to help build out and design this program. We have the basics of the program architecture, and we're going to need to start spending some resources to do the on the ground, door to door type of outreach and engagement that we know is necessary before we can finalize some of these routes. So, the city and Hartford Healthcare are working on an MOU that identifies $200,000 from Hartford Healthcare to support this effort, and AARP is looking to provide $4,500. So we need your approval to enter into those agreements. I'm happy to answer any questions. I do have, the same slides that we covered on September 28th, if anybody wants me to pull any of that up to discuss some of the details of the program. So thank you for the audience, and happy to answer any questions that the council members may have.
Thank you, Director. I'll open it up the floor to any of my colleagues who have questions. Councilwoman Rossetti.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Nat, I was lucky enough to sit through the presentation on the 28th of September with the very, very engaged presenter. What's his name again?
Bill Peñalosa.
Oh my God, he could sell you anything. But with that said, it was very engaging, and I two things. And I know our initiative is really to come back from what we've been through and the health of our city. But as I stressed that day, not to deter from people who may think, oh my God, this is only if I'm a cyclist or a walker. There are people who want to passively participate. Not that I'm saying that's me, but we want to encourage everyone to come out, and we don't want people to be intimidated maybe by the athletics of it. If you're older, or you maybe can't participate in the same way because of just your makeup. So that is the first thing I want to make sure we always say that, because I know today, again, you said biking, but also there's passive ways to, and maybe passive is the wrong word because that's too extreme, but there's ways to participate in this in all forms. I think that's the important part, because when I first heard it, I did have to say, oh God, what the hell is this? But I do think it's intriguing, and I'm impressed by the presentation. My one question is, you said the input financially from AARP and Hartford Healthcare. Is there a cost to us as a city?
Great question. So yes, we are also putting $200,000 of our own city resources. So that's Hartford Healthcare and us are equal partners in this. We anticipate the full cost of this program to be in the $600,000 range. So we are actively seeking additional partners and anticipate coming before you again once those partners are identified, because again, we'll need your authority to enter into those agreements. And I'll just note, Councilwoman, I think your point on the passive element of this is incredibly important. One of the benefits of an open streets program is mental health benefits. I think we do focus a lot on the physical health benefits, but the sheer act of being able to put out a lawn chair on the street and watch the city go by in a safe and healthy manner provides immense mental health benefits. Especially for young and old populations, which is why AARP is particularly interested in the sort of social cohesion elements of how people interact with something like this. So I just think I appreciate you continuing to emphasize that point, and I will make sure to adjust my talking points.
I am an extreme athlete, Nat. Don't try to say that's not what it is. I'm biking and cycling and skiing, but I think we need to focus on others who need passive and just some great people watching, and we're a city for that. So thank you, Nat, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, I'd just like to welcome Majority Leader Councilman Tj Clark, who has joined us via phone. So I'll open it up for other any other my council colleagues for questions. Yes, Councilman Sanchez.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry. Let me see. Who wants to go first, Councilman Sanchez or Councilman Clark?
I just have a brief question.
Go ahead, Councilman Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Gale, for the presentation. And I'm sorry about that I missed your beginning presentation. But what streets is the city identifying to have the open streets?
Yeah, great question. So I will say, part of the reason why, this funding is important is to help us finalize the routes that we want to go and use because, there's still different stakeholders that we need to meet with. I spoke with, some folks on Albany Avenue that are interested in understanding this. So I'll start by just saying, our routes are not 100% finalized. Part of, asking for your approval is to give us the resources to do that. But the streets that we're looking at, and I'll bring up my screen here so that you all can see it. But we're looking at, small business corridors primarily. And so we have sort of 5 different neighborhood arterials, right? So up at the top here, you've got North Main Street in pink or purple, I should say, light purple, as well as Albany Avenue here in light blue, Farmington Avenue here in brown, Park Street here in yellow, and then Franklin Avenue down here in green, with then this sort of darker purple color Main Street in downtown. And the idea here is, there's the ability to combine these in different ways. Again, we've gotten some great feedback from West End as well as Frog Hollow and Parkville NRZs. So the Farmington Avenue to Park Street is, one route that we think works well. We've also been to the South End NRZ. I mentioned I'm talking to the Upper Albany Merchants Association in the coming weeks. And again, the goal here is to have routes that connect city neighborhoods as well as tie our existing assets together. So that's parks, our art and culture institutions, our business institutions. And again, we're looking at potential combinations therein. Our goal, again, our goal for finalizing the routes and the dates is by January of 2022, we want to be able to have a more formal public launch. And again, these resources will help us get from here to there to continue these conversations and invest in the logistical coordination of those different routes.
Thank you for that. 2 follow-up questions. Some of the streets that you identified are state roads. So any part of those roads that are looking to be part of the open streets, do we have to seek permission from the state of Connecticut to close the roads?
Great question. The short answer is yes. And Director Chambers, who I mentioned, our Director of Planning, who working in close coordination in developing this, she has already had a conversation with a whole host of folks at CTDOT regarding the necessary process on any roads like Albany Avenue that are owned and maintained by the state of Connecticut.
Great. And second follow-up question is, this resolution is not authorizing closure of streets. It's just more so providing the administration with resources to get the process started. Will the administration be coming back to the council regarding a request to close streets? What's the next process?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would have to check with Corp Counsel on, what is, required per, code and ordinance. Of course, I would be more than happy to come back as requested, to just provide an update once routes are identified and finalized. Absent any formal action, I think, having an update is easily doable.
Thank you. And through the chair, I would like the committee to do request that the administration, before this actually gets off the ground and running, with identifying the streets for another report or presentation to be submitted to the council. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Majority Leader. I think Councilman Sanchez, the floor is yours. Councilman Sanchez, you still there?
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yep.
Okay, Majority Leader asked most of the questions that I wanted to ask. Thank you. And I apologize, I'm losing signal. So I'm in and out, and I basically just heard half of what's going on.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Councilwoman Surgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize, I'm not showing my face on the screen because I'm also doing my NRZ meeting on my cell phone. So I apologize to everyone. But I'm listening to both meetings. Thank you again, Mr. Gale, for answering a lot of our questions regarding the upcoming proposal of I call it like Community Street Day. That's basically what I'm going to call it. One of the questions that was asked of me is that we have a community day in Upper Albany, which is a side street off of Albany Avenue, which we have closed before. That's part of our cultural arts district beginning. And so if we wanted was to recommend that to the group of instead of closing the avenue was to close that street off, would you consider doing so?
Yeah, that's a great question. Absolutely. You know, we want exactly that type of feedback of what streets would make sense to include in this. So you know, that's I welcome that feedback. And I would just say one of the goals here is to ensure we have a route length that allows us to connect communities. So that's, you know, that's why we're looking at these sort of scale of street that we are. Yeah.
Okay, great. And again, through you, Mr. Chair, when your plans are finalized and the streets are finalized, are you planning and using any of the ARP funds to do any programs?
That's a great question. I don't believe those are the funding sources that we are looking at. I would have to check internally. That if anything, there is some funding around cultural programming through ARP, that there will be a cultural programming element to this. But that is not finalized what the funding sources internally are yet.
I mean, you know, I'm going to bring my chair out, you know, and sit out. At least can we get some entertainment while we're doing
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
You know, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That's why I asked that question, sir.
Yeah, and if I may, Councilwoman, I think it's, you know, one of the principles of this program is to provide a varied and diverse amount, you know, types of programming. So per, you know, Councilwoman Rossetti's comment earlier, there are multiple ways for people to experience this. So yes, we want to work with our art and culture community to ensure there's active programming throughout the course of the day and along the route, as well as provide opportunities for more passive engagement.
Right.
So thank you for that question.
One more question, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, sir.
Of course, Councilwoman Surgeon. Of course.
One of the other issues that was brought to my attention is on a Sunday, and you were thinking of doing this like at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I was made aware of that. That's around the time that most of our churches are in, you know, has begun until about 1 o'clock. And out of respect for the religious day, one of the comment that was, you know, pasted to me is, would you consider starting a little bit later in the day, you know, out of respect, because it is Sunday, it is religious day, and a lot of there's a lot of apartments off these main thoroughfare that people live at. And so, especially in the Upper Albany, where a lot of our residents work in the medical field. And so on a Sunday morning, we all go to church on a Sunday morning. Some of us are all sinners like myself. And so those are consideration I would ask your group to take in consideration of a Sunday and being respectful for Sunday for a lot of our members in our residences, a very religious day.
Yeah, that's a great comment, great question. One of our next steps is to sit down with every, faith-based institution that has operations on Sunday along the potential routes, because we want to have those detailed conversations. When are people coming here? How do they get in? So that we can design, what the needs of the day are around, making sure that it's not overly disruptive to operations. And so certainly timing is part of that. That's definitely under consideration. And I will take that into our coordinating conversations when we get to that point.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Open it back up, see if there's any more questions. Okay, so I have two quick questions for you, Director. The first is, I saw the map with the different colors. Is the thought process that all of this is going to happen on one day, all of those streets, or is it a rotation?
Great question. Yeah, it would be a rotation. The idea would not, all of those at once, I think, would be a bit overwhelming.
Right.
And so yeah, we're looking at combinations of 1 to 2 of those different routes that would happen, on a rotating basis between May and October. So
the $600,000 figure, without having the budget line item in front of us and without going into details, what are the major bulks of the money going to, and where did we get that figure? Yeah, great question. So that came from a rough, order of magnitude estimate of about $100,000 per day, right, per event. And so some of that is planning costs, right, the work that is necessary to get there. So, one of the good examples is going literally door to door along the route to talk to every stakeholder, whether it's a business or a residence, and provide them with the information about what is happening and what this means for the day. And then you also have day of programming, right? Again, we want to have a robust, cultural programming. So some of the funding is going to go towards that, as well as city services. There will be setup and breakdown that is required for each of those days. So those are the sort of the high level costs. I'd be happy to provide a more detailed breakdown if that's of interest. So in terms of the outreach efforts, are those going to be parsed out to local community-based organizations that have the relationships in those communities? That's our goal. We have, just as an example, when we spoke to some of the stakeholders in Park Street, one of them is Fema, who has offered to, partner with us on, using their small business outreach elements to go door to door. So, we would want to take a similar approach in every neighborhood that has assets and resources, community assets and resources, to work with them to get the word out. Where those don't exist, we have the Youth Service Corps, who will be a great resource to work with us. But yes, that's part of why we're going to every NRZ and business association, is to create those connections that allow us to work hand in hand to make sure those resources are going back to the communities that we're working in. Thank you, Director. So seeing no further, Councilwoman Surgeon, you had your hand up again? Don't think so. Okay. All right. So seeing no further comments, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
All right.
With a favorable
So we have
recommendation.
Second.
All right. So I think Councilwoman Rossetti, did I hear you second?
I'll second it. Yep.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor, and that was seconded by Councilwoman Rossetti. Let the minutes reflect that. Any discussion?
I believe Majority Leader made it. It's a favorable motion, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right. And any discussions? All right. Seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 So moved. All right. So passed. All right. Thank you, Director Gale. You're welcome to stay on, but I don't think you have any other items here. So have a good evening. Thank you very much. You as well.
Thanks, Nat.
All right. We'll be moving on to a resolution introduced by Councilman James Sanchez, supported by myself and Madam President Mally Rizzato. This is a resolution urges the Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Public Works, and other departments in using existing completed research of 253.7 nm UV-C lighting for an added extra level of disinfecting. So I think we have some, Councilman Sanchez, you want to introduce it, or not sure if the service is working? All right, with that, Councilman Sanchez having some internet issues. So whoever wants to discuss, I believe we have some people here to present. Councilman Sanchez, can you? All right, so whoever's here to discuss it, the floor is yours.
How you doing? My name's Tom Bodwin. I'm the owner of TNT Electrical Contractors. I'm located at 420 Windsor Street in Hartford, is where my office is located. I had it came to my attention that Councilman Sanchez was extremely passionate about UV as it pertained to mitigating airborne pathogens, which was near and dear to my heart as we were going through COVID. In doing so, I looked at opportunities that in partnerships that would work with our business. And I partnered up with a company called Pure Light Clean Air, and Corey D. Chotel is on the line with us. He is the president of that company, and I'm going to turn it over to him so he can give you a little bit of a presentation of what we do and how it impacts this resolution that was put forth. So, Corey, if you would.
No problem. Thanks for having me this evening, Tom. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, I'll go ahead and share my screen. I'll do a quick presentation, maybe 15 minutes. Feel free to stop me or save your questions to the end. Either way, doesn't bother me at all. But I'll go over. Let me go ahead and share my screen, full screen, and go over a quick agenda. So I want to do a quick introduction of us, how we got started, technology, if you're not familiar with it, and then look at the project implementation. How are we going to go and execute for municipalities and schools? What are we doing currently in other places, and what are we proposing here? And then we'll open it up for questions towards the end. So a little bit about us. We were established in 2008. Our founder was a facility engineer in the early 2000s, got mold poisoning from poor indoor air quality. He had to learn to read and write again. He was out for about 2 years. And then when he was back on his feet, vowed to work on indoor air quality, and thus, Pure Light Clean Air was started. We are a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business. We proudly manufacture inside the United States. And a lot of what we're going to talk about today is UVC. If you're not familiar with UVC, it's been around for a very long time. It's a certain wavelength of light that has germicidal properties to it. So it's all about contact exposure and time required. So whether it's a pathogen on a surface or maybe airborne, we can design systems that are custom engineered for whatever application to have enough exposure and intensity to disrupt that pathogen, disrupt its DNA, render it harmless, and thus stopping the spread of infectious disease, whatever it may be. The great thing that we love about UV is there's no known pathogen that can't be destroyed through UV when properly designed. That's why we really have a big focus from an engineering and manufacturing side. Most of the products that we design and engineer and manufacture are UV based. Behind the scenes, we've got a full R&D team. One of the big differentiators with us is it's all about proper design. So when we do a project, we get to know the customer, the buildings, do a proper assessment on the air handlers, the room, the use of the space. How is this customer using the space? What are the critical areas? We get to know that customer, and everything that we do is going to be custom for that building, for that application. We have 4 manufacturing facilities. Our main one is in Memphis, Tennessee, and we've got 3 more that support across the country. We do everything in-house, so we definitely have a lot of pride in manufacturing inside the United States, and we do as much as we can internally, so we can go from an assessment to product delivery in under a month, just because we control so much of that supply chain and do as much as we can in-house. So the supply chain constraints that you see across the country that we're still dealing with today, has definitely affected us, but not nearly as much as other manufacturers. Just quick recent past performance, obviously with the pandemic, huge focus in installations in schools and hospitals, municipalities. Going back to why we focus so much with UV and why it's so applicable, every known pathogen, there's an established kill rate with that using UV. So we can do projects. We do a lot of bioterrorism for the federal government with anthrax, to powdery mildew in the growth market, indoor growth market, to working with food and growers for influenza, prisons with tuberculosis. So it's really just knowing the customer and what their critical focus pathogens are, and we develop systems for that. But just a great applicable system across the board for any industry. So what are we proposing for this? We'll take a little bit deeper dive into that. So we always start kind of as a tier one. The first thing that we always recommend is we focus on the air handlers. So that we design a system that's specific to each air handler that services, whether it's a municipality, a school, whatever air handler rooms that it's serving. We design a system that's going to have enough UV intensity, enough light to kill all of the common pathogens. COVID, staph, tuberculosis, common cold, influenza was always our focus before the COVID pandemic, to kill all of those airborne pathogens per air exchange. So we always start here, and the reason that we start here is because our HVAC solutions have a proven ROI to them, a return on investment. So they average 3 to 4 years. They're going to help prolong the life of your air handlers. It's one of the most expensive purchases for our building. So doing proper O&M operations and maintenance on that, making the best life out of that equipment is really critical. And saving energy is a huge bonus. So we always like to start here as a kind of a tier one approach, and then knowing that customer, getting to know the budget, what are their uses of that space, then we kind of branch out from there. So our second is upper air. We may focus, we're doing a lot in schools in particular. This model here on the bottom, a 2x2. So you see a lot in classrooms, the drop ceiling tiles. So we can do a 2x2 inside of that room. And the basis of upper air, which is one of the Nobel Peace Prize for helping stop the spread of tuberculosis, is the same concepts as our HVAC solutions, and it's really focused on airborne mitigation. So if you have the flu or COVID, as you exhale that micro vapor and it naturally rises just due to heat, that's when it's going to come in contact with our upper airs that may be in the room itself, or every air exchange. So there's multiple air exchanges where all of that air in that room gets sucked up and goes through the HVAC system, and that's where it'll come in contact with our HVAC solutions to eradicate those pathogens. So that's kind of a tiered approach that we're doing a lot in schools. Focus heavy on the HVAC, and then look at their budget, look at their use of the building. Where can we incorporate upper air? From there, we also have mobile solutions. This is for unoccupied areas for surface disinfection. We also have partnered up with a tech company to develop air monitoring. So this is great. A lot of teachers and really a lot of the parents were asking for this. So it was really great because we can put these in certain parts of the school, municipality, any building, and link them all together. You can tie them into a monitor, the front of the school when people walk in, and you can see the air quality. You can see it detects pathogens, so it won't tell you that it's COVID, but it will detect down to 0.1 micron. We can look at CO2 dust levels, volatile organic compounds from cleaning, or just the air pollution that may be around that school and municipality. This is great as a great footprint of what's going on in our building and how we can make adjustments, whether it's in filtration or implementing technologies like UV. So these are adders as we kind of branch up and look at what the needs may be for that building that we can incorporate into our projects. And just a quick market comparison. So when we started this company, we did a lot of research and looking at what manufacturers, UV as a technology has been around for a very long time. We wanted to modernize it. We wanted to, what were companies doing good? What were they doing bad? And how do we make the best product possible? So for us, it was designing an engineered custom solution using proven science, peer-reviewed building a system that's going to last. So everything that we do is going to be made out of aluminum and stainless. We use no proprietary lamps, so that was a big one for us. What we found in the industry from the traditional manufacturers was you essentially get a lamp and wiring, and you have to erect this system yourself and buy all of that. And then when it comes time to purchase lamps, which we need to switch out every 2 years, those were almost the cost of the initial project, right? There are these proprietary lamps that were $150, $250 a piece. So we wanted to get away from that. It's one price. It's designed specifically for the area that it's going to be installed in. We use Philips non-proprietary lamps for just to keep the cost of ownership down. And we really service and make sure that the facility managers, anyone that's going to be in that space, all of the automated controls, that everyone's protected. There's fail safes, and anytime it needs to be serviced, it's extremely easy. You can slide out the rack, pop out a lamp, put a new one in, and you're good to go for another 2 years. So we incorporated a lot of lessons learned throughout the industry to make sure that we were delivering the best product possible, because that's what our customers expect, and that's what we would expect if we were buying this product as well. So that's what we've really aimed to solve many of the issues found with traditional UV manufacturers. And then for implementation, so for this project, we kind of looked at the technology and our different product lines and how we phased them into projects. For installation on this one, we partnered up with TNT, Tommy with TNT Electric. They're our only certified Tier 3 installer, so they have installed all 3 of our different product lines. They can do repairs if something got damaged in shipping, and they can do full service work. So, which is great. So our approach just makes sense to us is we design, engineer, and manufacture, and we love partnering up with local people, putting local people back to work. TNT is right there in Connecticut. You have your local expertise, your local installation, and puts local people back to work, and we're here to support them behind the scenes throughout the life of the project. And then the biggest 2 questions that we have is, does it kill COVID, or how does it kill COVID? And then, how does it save energy? Those are the 2 big ones that we always get asked. So I wanted to kind of throw this out there. We are part of the CDC's approved COVID-19 response plan. Another big one that you're seeing and will continue to be is ventilation, air exchanges, bringing in as much fresh air as you can. We are on the CDC's approved ventilation technologies as well. And then I've got a chart here. UVC is very well proven. The engineering and calculations that are done have been used for decades now. So I like to include this chart. This is what we do at a base minimum. So this is at a minimum, every air exchange that we do, you will get these kill rates just in UVC alone. So we really focus a lot. There's a lot of talks with COVID now, but hopefully we will get past this COVID, but you're still going to have things like the common cold. You're still going to have flu season. You're going to have chickenpox and other pathogens, that are transmitted airborne that we really need to focus on and will continue to have issues with. And it solves all of those. It's not just COVID today. And then for the energy saving side, one thing that we really focus on is, and what you're seeing a lot in schools and municipalities and every business, they don't know what to do. So what they commonly do is put higher filtration in and bring as much outside air as they can, which is not a bad move. What we really want to do when we look at a project, we want to now bring in a new solution and work those 2 together for synergy and maximum for energy savings. So once we install UV, we can dial back the amount of outside air that we bring in. O&M savings that we do. We keep these coils clean to keep the energy savings part, and that's going to help on the operations and maintenance side. That's what's going to prolong the life of these air handlers. Your coils are now clean, so you no longer have to pay to clean those. Your fans and motors and compressors aren't working hard, so it's naturally going to extend the life of all of this equipment. As far as filtration, we do all of our base calculations with a cost-efficient standard MERV8 filter. And the concept behind that is let filtration do its job, catch the large particulates, the dust. Now let UV, since we've implemented now, kill all of the small things, right? And then the energy savings primarily come from where we install it inside of the air handler is going to keep that coil clean to maximize energy savings there. Just so you can get your, these systems pay for themselves. The biggest I think the biggest home run, especially if there's available CARES and ESSER funding or even state funding that we've seen across the last few years, has been once these systems are implemented, there's a big focus on improved indoor air quality. But besides that, you're going to start saving from day one, both on the operations and maintenance side and energy savings side. And that money goes directly back into your budget immediately once the project's been commissioned. And that's really important for us. It's just this last slide just kind of highlights the overall benefits, that we're not just focusing on indoor air quality. We can, with the same product, the same design, the same approach, start to reduce your carbon footprint, put money back into your operating budget and prolong the life of all of this equipment. And that's it.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions? Anything I can?
Yeah, if you could, just so I can see everyone, could you stop sharing the screen?
Sure.
Thank you.
There we go.
All right,
No
so I'll
problem.
open it up the floor to my council colleagues. Councilwoman Surgeon, do you have a question? All right. Councilwoman Rossetti?
Do not have any questions. Thank you for the presentation.
No problem. Thank you.
Councilman Sanchez, do you have any questions?
Yes, I'm going to attempt this. And again, I apologize. I'm having a horrible time hearing the conversation or the meeting, and the visual is also bad. So my question to you.
Councilman Sanchez, we kind of lost you. Councilman Sanchez, we lost you. I think sometimes what works, Councilman Sanchez, if you take the video off and just use the mic, maybe that might help.
You can't hear me?
We can hear you.
Can hear you now.
Perfect.
Okay, so I'll repeat myself. I'm looking at the cost. What would the cost be overall? And are there any grants to supplement the cost?
Sure. So a ballpark average, $1 to $1.50 a square foot is a great just estimating cost. If you're looking at a school that's 100,000 square feet, maybe $100,000 to $150,000 for equipment and install a turnkey for that. It's a great, easy budgetary number that they traditionally fall in. And then as far as funding, I know that there are I don't know with you, but there is definitely ESSER funding and funding that may be from the federal government through COVID that will absolutely satisfy all of those requirements if there's any available funding left. I do believe any of that funding has to be issued by the end of the year. Also, in the state of Connecticut, I do know that there has been funding that was looked at for state purposes to improve indoor air quality. So we may be able to do something at the state level.
If I may interject on that, so through the Clean Airs Act, there was money that was made. There was money that was made available to do this work. It would be through application through the Clean Airs Act, and one of the lesser known available funding sources is through FEMA. And through FEMA, what you have to do is you have to make a application, and it is based on a reimbursement of the work that is being performed in your buildings, dollar for dollar. And along with that, obviously, so the concern with the city, like many other municipalities, is, well, we don't have the money to fund it. We're in a position where we can self-fund these projects until the money becomes available through that grant once it is approved, and to get done. I think the most important thing here is that obviously, airborne pathogens, especially as of late in the last 2 years as a result of COVID, have become extremely important to the people, especially in schools with students and with and teachers, as well as our municipal buildings and our state office buildings and what have you. I mean, there's a number of companies that still aren't back to work because of in doing offsite work and doing meetings such as this because they can't get back into their places. This product can, kills all airborne pathogens. So it's not just, it's not just COVID. We're not focusing just on COVID. I think any airborne pathogen, influenza, as Corey pointed out, your common cold is being killed. Along with that, one of the added attributes that you get along with this product is there is an ongoing maintenance. With the use of UV, it cleans it ends up cleaning your ductwork that's being used. And I don't know if you saw the one shot, and Corey can certainly forward that PowerPoint presentation to any member that wants it. But they had coils side by side, one with caked up dust on it, one without. The UV kills that and eradicates all of that dust on its own. That's not somebody going in there and cleaning those coils. Now, normally there's a maintenance for it. How often that gets done, my guess is probably next to no. But once you end up eradicating all that dust that are in these lines, it ends up allowing your equipment to run much more efficiently, thereby prolonging the life of the equipment that you have and saving you money by way of maintenance also. So it's a two-prong effect. Our main goal was to make you aware of this product, not to come in here and try to sell you something. Obviously we would love to do that. We're local and we think we have the best solution that is out there. And we do it, we're doing this not only throughout the state, but Corey is doing it throughout the US. I'm installing this in multiple other municipalities currently, and it's ongoing. But, it came to my knowledge through a mutual friend, John Bizzano, the former city clerk, that said that Councilman Sanchez was very big on UV. And I took the opportunity to meet with him and talk with him about this. And he gave me the opportunity to present. And for that, I do appreciate your time this evening in allowing us to do that.
Thank you to both of you guys for the presentation, and just introducing Council President Mally Rosado joining us. Thank you, Council President.
Good evening.
Were you able to hear any of the presentations, or do you have any questions?
At this time, thank you, Councilman.
Okay, thank you. So my question is for Director Roy. I'm sorry, Councilman Rossetti, did you have a question? No. Okay. My question is for Director Arroyo. Director, are there any currently, is there any UV being used at all in any of the city properties, including the schools, that you're aware of? Hello, Director.
Sorry, I was muted. I said I am not aware of that. That would be a question better answered by DPW and the Hartford Public Schools maintenance team, buildings team, but I am not aware of it at this point in time.
Okay. What, Director, while we got you on, would you estimate, let's say, for example, DPW or one of our agencies wanted to go forward with UV lighting or this added layer of protection? Do you think that you would be looped into that conversation in terms of the purchase?
Potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, not through the schools, through DPW. More than likely, I would be asked my opinion. Yes.
Okay. And all right. Okay. Yes, Councilwoman Rossetti. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I need to think a little bit about this. So depending, I mean, this can't seem to be a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. Does it matter age of building, height of, how does, I'm trying to get my head around the different types of buildings we have in our city, from City Hall to a newer school to, older building? How does that work?
Right. So I'll answer first, and then Corey can chime in. So what would happen is if you wanted to move forward, or at least look at the opportunity to have this installed in your building, we would end up coming in and we would do an assessment of the building. You're right. One size doesn't fit all, and it all depends on what may be existing by way of your air handling systems. The mobile ones and the unit ones, those are nice to assist in some of that work, but your biggest bang for your buck is through your air handlers and installing these in your air handlers. And then the product is designed based on the existing air handler and putting them in. To that, Corey, why don't you, if you want to chime in and add, be my guest.
You did a great job with that. Everything that we do, there is no off-the-shelf kits or designs. So we actually, when we do the assessment, we'll look at the parameters. So as I mentioned earlier, it's about time and intensity. So we're going to look at the parameters. How fast is that air moving? What are the height and width dimensions? And that's what we design the system around, particularly for the air handler. If it was inside of the room, it would be the use of space and the square footage of that room. But that is the engineering, and that's part of the data that we collect during the assessment phase. That, the point that you made is very critical of a successful project, that's been successfully designed and commissioned versus just buying something off the internet and saying that you've done something, you've put in UV, or you've taken measures. It has to be a designed and engineered approach, and that's the way you get a successful project out of it. And that's the approach that we always take with everyone that we do. So that's really critical. The assessment is probably our most critical point to gather all that data so we can engineer properly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, so just a couple points here. Corporation Counsel, either Attorney Manachi Mori or Attorney Osborne. Assuming we went into we would have to receive bids, right, for UV. We wouldn't just be able to, let's say, if we to go with a vendor A. I'm not going to use TNT or but if vendor A went in, would we have to would an RFP or a bid have to go out depending on the scale?
I believe so. I don't think this would qualify under any type of emergency contract, which would be exempted from the procurement process. So I believe it may have to be competitively bid. It appears based on this industry that the amount of companies are small, so this one may be in luck, but I think it would have to be.
It would have to go out to bid. Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman Rossetti.
Be clear on what we're voting on. I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. The resolve on this is
yes.
We're voting on that. The resolve is to locate Health and Human Services to locate appropriate funding. That's what we're voting on.
Correct.
Not the approval of, notwithstanding it's a very interesting concept, the approval of doing it. It's the locating the funding to then do something like this.
Right, correct. So I'll just read the resolve clause so that we're all there's a few resolve clause. So the first resolve clause is Court of Common urges the Department of Health and Human Services along with DPW and use of existing completed research. I'm giving the abbreviated version. Resolve, if implemented, the department shall use non-proprietary UVC lamps for the facilities and cleaning purposes. Resolve that this UVC technology is not intended to end nor replaces the standard disinfecting practices. And be it further that the UVC light shall not be used in direct contact with a person or animal. And then I think this is the biggest resolve clause, that the Department of Health and Human Services with the Grants Department locate and appropriate funding for such technology, and be it further, by implementing this technology, all people entering city facilities shall enter with knowledge that the City of Hartford added an extra layer of protection. So with that being said, Director Arroyo has just another quick question. I know you're in another meeting. Have you come across grants that involve UV lighting?
No, I have not personally seen grants that involve UV lighting.
Okay, since we have no one from the grants department, okay, so with that being said, Councilwoman, would you like to make it doesn't seem like we're marrying anything right now. It's just opening up the opportunity to explore the potentiality around looking for UV possibilities. So with that being said, Councilman Rossetti, do you have a motion?
I have a motion to move this forward favorably per the resolution.
All right, I second the motion. And any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so moved. Motion passed. Thank you guys for presenting today and taking your time. I understand that, doing the presentation and those type of things may seem or have appearances, that it was just, sale, but that wasn't your intent. You clearly said that you had the benefit and the mind of our residents in the city of Hartford. TNT, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
No, thank you, Marilyn. Everybody, have a good night. Thank you for having us.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Okay, so further, we'll be moving on to the third item on the agenda, which is Mayor Bronin with the company resolution authorize the city to enter into a new lease for approximately 18 square feet of office space located on the second floor of 175 Main Street with the Hispanic Health Council Incorporated to house the Women, Infant, and Children program for a term of 3 years with 2 one-year extension options. So with that being said, Director Arroyo, are you here to speak on this item?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, the floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you. So, as many of you may be aware, the City of Hartford operates the Women, Infant, and Children's program, which is commonly thought of as the free infant formula program for newborns to up to 1 year old. But it provides much more than that. It also provides nutrition assistance to pregnant women, and it provides nutrition assistance until the child is 5 years old. So we've been running this program for a long time. I don't have the exact years. And we've always had it in 2 sites. We've had our Bergdorf Clinic at 131 Coventry Street in the North End. And because a lot of, when we look at the child population, it is based in the South End, we've had a clinic on the South End as well. It used to be on Park Street in a city-owned building. Many years ago, we moved over to the Hispanic Health Council because we were having challenges with the building on Park Street. And so we've been there ever since I've been here, and I believe a number of years before that, renting the space or leasing the space from the Hispanic Health Council because we do get a large number of our clients. I think the majority of our clients come into that office rather than our North End office. But essentially, this is just to re-enter into a lease with them or renew our lease with them. We just worked with them to sort of redo the space, taking into account COVID, taking into account just staff safety and employee safety, into a better space at the Hispanic Health Council offices on Main Street. So we're going from the first floor to the second floor, a differently configured space that better suits our needs. But that's essentially what this is for. All of this is covered by our annual RIC grant that is pass-through funding from the state of Connecticut. They receive the funding from the federal government, and then we put in our application for funding the city of Hartford. And so one of the things I think that most people also don't know as it relates to our WIC program is that we not only serve the city of Hartford residents, we also serve many of the surrounding towns, and we do clinics in different towns, including West Hartford, Wethersfield, Broomfield. We're also serving women and children from those locations as well to our city of Hartford. And that's it.
I'll open up the floor to my council colleagues. Any question? Yes, Councilwoman Rossetti? No questions? No. Council President, Councilman Sanchez, Councilwoman Surgeon, any questions?
No, I mean, I have a couple of questions, but I am going to email Director Arroyo.
Okay, thank you.
As to how many mothers, we currently serve versus
Oh,
in the past.
I can
Thank
give
you.
that to you. Just
Oh,
big
okay.
picture, yeah. We serve 55, it's about 5,500 individual women. That number has fluctuated over the years, but we've since I've been here have been about 5,500. I believe over 3,000 of them are served through that Hispanic Health Council location, and then the remaining through our Coventry Street and other satellite locations throughout. As I mentioned, we go to CHS, we go to Head Start, we go to Bloomfield, we go to West Hartford, we go to Wethersfield as well. But that's our total number, and we're actually going to be looking at embarking on working to increase that number as well. We're not sure if they're going to allow us to continue to do teleservices, but if they do, we have found that that's been quite helpful in keeping mothers engaged, because on average, if you are done with infant formula, on average, you get about $50 worth of WIC benefits per child between the ages of 1 and 5. So there's real money there to help families with food insecurity and to make their SNAP dollars, if they're on SNAP, go farther. So we're going to be embarking on a way to bring those numbers up. At one point, we were serving, I think, over 6,500. So we want to bring those numbers back up and ensure that all of our families have access to this.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Council President. Question, Director Arroyo. So are we still keeping the North End facility?
Absolutely.
We are, so it's just having 2 facilities, correct?
Yes. We've had 2 facilities since I've been here and for a number of years prior to that.
Okay, great. And then the second question, you said that we serve other cities. Do they contribute at all to help us run this program?
Well, this program is entirely funded by grants.
Okay.
From the state.
But I mean, do they kick in any dollars to pay the lights or anything like that?
Well, there's nothing, no, because it's completely funded by the state. Yeah, it's completely funded. All the staff is covered by grants. All of the staff is covered by grants, and then they host us in their facilities. So Wethersfield, I believe, was a town hall.
Right.
So they'll host us in their facilities.
Got it.
But no, they don't. Everything, the equipment that we need to go remote is all provided by the state.
Thank you, Director. The reason I say that is just another example of how the city of Hartford holds the entire region down. So I'd like to highlight those things because oftentimes there is a misperception outside of the city lines of Hartford in terms of what we do and what we don't do for our surrounding communities. So thank you for highlighting that.
Not a problem.
I do have a question for Councilman Gale couldn't be here today, but he asked me to share a question. So this is from Councilman Gale. And so he was asking about the lease in an area similar or 1 block away. It's potentially, it looks like 10 to 20% less, the lease space. How did we arrive at the current lease price? Well, let me ask this question. It says how do we arrive at the price for the lease, and in comparison, how do we compare it to other lease spaces in the neighborhood?
So this lease is negotiated through Corporation Council, but it also includes everything. It includes cleaning, it includes maintenance. So there's nothing other than the payment that we're making, and then a partial payment towards a security guard that's covered under another contract that is also paid for by the state of Connecticut. If we were to have a reduced cost lease, that money would just be less money coming into the city to pay for the services. So there's not a cost savings to the city per se that we would be able to actualize. It wouldn't be enough to pay for a staff member. It wouldn't be enough to pay for to increase services in any other meaningful way. But it does include everything. Lights, there's no additional bills with the exception that we also pay partial of a security guard. That would be something that we would have to absorb the full cost of if we were to leave this facility.
Thank you, Director. Everything included, that sounds great.
And I would also add, for our community, constancy, being in the same place where they're familiar, where they know where they're going, is super helpful. And so many of the individuals that we serve that come in through through this clinic are also going to Hispanic Health Council for services, similar to many of the women that we serve in the North End at the Coventry Street location are going to the Bergdorf Clinic for additional services as well.
Right. So, seeing no more comments, I'll take a motion.
Motion to favorably move this resolution forward.
I second the motion. Any comments? Seeing no comments, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion approved. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome to stay on if you like. It's up to you. Have a wonderful evening. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 4. Mayor Bronin with a company resolution confirming the appointment of Susan Sarmiento and Leida Ramos to the Permanent Commission of the Status of Hartford Women. So before we start there, Susan, I do see you on, but I have a question for Corporation Counsel. Attorney Osborne, can we, and Attorney Minachi Mori, can we sever this? Because I don't see Leida on this. Are we able to separate this resolution into 2?
And would it be to postpone Ms. Ramos's appointment to a different time? Possibly next subcommittee meeting?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think ultimately, you know, we always, in general, I speak for my colleagues. I know that we generally like to speak and see, or at least speak, you know, through Zoom with folks. But I do know that mayoral appointments, if they're not done in a certain amount of time, they get approved anyway. But I would put Leida on the next HHS meeting because I think it's 45 days. So is that okay if I was to make a motion to separate both of these?
I would think that's permissible, Councilman.
Thank you. So I'll make a motion to separate these items into 2 separate items, one for the appointment of Susan Sarmiento and another for the appointment of Leida Ramos. Do I have a second?
Second that.
All right. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Aye. All right. So that's been passed. So now the motion has been separated. We'll introduce, the resolution has been separated into 2 separate resolutions. So we'll take up the first one, which is the appointment of Susan Sarmiento, and apologize if I'm messing up the name. Susan, you have been recommended by the mayor to represent the Permanent Commission on the Status of Hartford Women. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Well, thank you very much. If you hear someone screaming in the background, are my children on the first floor. But what an honor, and I have been working in the community for many years, and it's an honor to serve the city of Hartford. I don't know what else I can say. So I guess you guys already, I mean, I can see already my information there. So, but a little bit about myself. I've been living in Hartford for the past 5, we own property in the past 5 years, but I've been living here for over 15. And native from Peru. And I moved here when I was 19. And I love Hartford, and I love the community. And yeah, whatever I can do to support the community.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rossetti, do you have any questions?
Yeah, well, no questions. First of all, thank you. Thank you for being willing to serve our city, represent the women of this city as another woman of the city. I appreciate that. And I hope you always look to us as a resource. And really, thank you. A lot of people don't take the time to go the extra mile, put themselves out there. Understand a lot of people can't, but I really appreciate that you are. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Setti.
So it looks here, so I'm just looking here. Ms. Sarmiento, I think you're a bit humble in the fact that you've been on the Governor's Prevention Partnership as a parent engagement coordinator. You worked at one of my local CBOs around the corner from me on Orange Street or Arbor Street, you know, that area by Day Park, Fame Life Education. You've also been a community organizer, interpreter for the community. I mean, so you have a lot of family credential. So that
Thank
is
you.
wonderful. And so, you know, one of the things just for the audience is the Permanent Commission on the Status of Hartford Women is charged with assisting in the elimination of gender-based discrimination and helping to improve the status of women in the city of Hartford. So thank you for your dedication to this and to the city. We appreciate and value that. With that being said, I'll take a motion.
I will make a favorable recommendation for this resolution.
I second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Ms. Sarmiento. You are now passed favorably from the committee, which will be brought before the city council as favorably recommended by both the mayor and our committee to the Permanent Commission on the Status of Hartford Women. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Councilman. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good evening. So we have another item on the floor. I move to postpone the appointment of Leda Ramos. Do I have a second?
Second that.
All right. Any discussion? So we have a motion that's been properly second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of postponing Leda Ramos until we can see and speak to her later?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
All right, so moved. Item has been postponed. And now we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is the Office of Equity and Opportunity. It's a new office. I think that was implemented or started last year. We have a very talented person by the name of Director Karen Taylor, who comes with in high esteem from various places. I could go on for a long time talking about all of the things that you do for our community. But with that being said, here at the Health and Human Services, we would like to get an update on their works and activities. I think you've been on for more than a year. Correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe close to a year. And so the floor is yours, Director.
Thank you so much, Councilman Mazan, and I appreciate the invitation here this evening. So I haven't quite made it a year, right? You're trying to age me. I'm still very much a toddler in this role. I started roughly in December of 2020, so really actually towards the end of December. So we may as well say the beginning of 2021, but it has been a really interesting and exciting ride that I've been on thus far. And so, Lydia, if I can, I sent you my presentation because technology has been humbling me all day. The way to start off the month. So, Lydia, if you're able to bring up the presentation, I would appreciate it. If not, I'm happy to just talk through it. So while hopefully maybe Lydia's doing that.
Yeah. Did you send it to both? Did you send it to both myself and Lydia?
No, but I can send it to you right now also.
Yeah, you can send it to me and I'll pull it up.
Okay. Awesome. So I'll just talk a little bit about myself while we get the presentation going. I think that particularly in the role of this, it's so important to be able to kind of know the person, right? So much of the work that I do and have done is around identity. So I'll share a little bit about who I am and why I am so really honored and excited to be able to serve as Director of Equity and Opportunity for the City of Hartford, inaugural Director of Equity and Opportunity for the City of Hartford. So my name is Karen Taylor. Depending on where you know me from, right? Some people call me Kay, call me Carrie, call me Killa. I am the youngest of 7 children. I'm a first-generation American. My parents are from the Caribbean. My mother is from St. Lucia. My father is from the Bahamas. And I grew up in West Virginia and moved to Hartford when I was about 13 years old, and I attended Weaver High School, right? So in terms of my academic background and education, I've attended Weaver, I've gone to Howard University, and I've attended Trinity College, where I ultimately completed my bachelor's degree in educational studies, right? Throughout my duration of time in Hartford, I've lived in Blue Hills, I've lived in Woodland Village, I lived in Stowe Village, and I currently reside in Asylum Hill with my twins, who are high schoolers, which is super exciting at this time. I'm a baby champion, so I hold the record for the third largest baby born in my hospital to date, all woman, day one, right, undisputed. I am an X-Men fanatic. I love Poke Bowls, think pieces. So that's just a little bit about me, who I am, things that motivate me, drive me. And then I'll talk to you a little bit about my professional journey, right? So I'm coming to the city of Hartford from Cigna, where I was the lead for global diversity, equity, and inclusion education. So I'm very much a learning and development nerd, right? That really is sort of my sweet spot. And if you think about it, equity and opportunity, or diversity and inclusion, or belonging, whatever folks are calling it these days, it's all really aligned to looking at inclusion as a core leadership competency, right? And so I'm coming to this work really thinking about tools and resources that we can utilize to help people work better together, right? I have over a 10-year career in learning and development in the nonprofit area. So I've worked for Susan G. Komen for the Cure. I've worked for Girl Scouts, where I ran a program at Kennelly School. I've worked at Trinity College, and I've worked in corporate, and now I'm really, really happy to be able to do work that I love in a place that I love and that I call home, right? And so, Councilman LeBron, I'm hoping that by this time you've been able to get the presentation. Always got my back. Awesome. Fantastic. If you can put it on presentation mode and we can just roll right through this. So I'll talk to you about the inaugural Office of Equity and Opportunity. And this is my strategic plan draft, all caps, right? Still very much working through exactly what it is that we want to tackle first. There's so many things that we can be doing, and Hartford should really be proud. The City Council should be incredibly proud for the creation of this office, because we are actually one of few places that has this office in a municipality, right? And so, Councilman LeBron, if we can put that into presentation mode, because I have all these words on the slide, right? So, and I know that that can be overwhelming for folks to see and look at. Whenever I see this many words on the slide, I'm always like, what is about to happen here this evening? And then you can just click through them, and I'll go over each point, and I'll expound upon it a little bit. So in the bottom right there, looks like the movie screen situation. On the toolbar, down to the right. Yep, you're close to something. I'm like trying to press it myself.
So,
on
okay, so how do I do, where is it at?
Yeah.
On the bottom here, this one right here, right?
Yep,
Is it this one?
Yep.
Let me see.
I think that's one. I don't have my glasses on.
I think I did it.
Yeah, I think you did it. Can you
All
just,
right, I'm proud of myself. Okay.
Click,
all right, now what do I do?
More. Can you click one more, do advanced one?
This one?
Oh, I see. Actually, you see where there's like, okay, folks can see. Do you have two monitors? Is that what you have?
I have two monitors, yes.
You have two monitors. Okay, so we're seeing the other side. It's okay though, but if you can just go back to the first point and I'll go through them one.
I'll share the other monitor. Yeah, I mean, if my children are watching me, they are probably laughing right now. So
I thought we doing better. I told you this technology has been humbling me today. I'm like talking on mute.
How about now?
Fantastic. So if you can just start from the very beginning, I'll expound upon each point.
Okay. Here we go. Boom.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate the support here, because I know you're kind of standing in the gap for me tonight. I appreciate it. So the Office of Equity and Opportunity, really, it is the revisioning and an expansion of what used to be the Human Relations Office. So special shout out to Majority Leader Clark, who I understand is responsible for the renaming of the office, and all of the members of City Council for being able to put this office forward, right? You know, a lot of organizations have been thinking about equity and opportunity and inclusion, particularly on the heels of all that happened last summer around a reckoning of racial injustices, COVID pandemic, health inequity. So just really can't say enough how progressive, right, this council is for being able to put forward this office, and this administration is for putting this office forward for us to be able to be a center of excellence and partner around how we can really make the city of Hartford the best employer for all people. Next point, please, Councilman. So the Office of Equity and Opportunity, I really am hoping for this to serve as a center of excellence to support a culture of professionalism, a culture of engagement, I will say that when I said I was leaving Cigna, right, to come to the city of Hartford, people were like, why would you do a thing like that? Like, why would you go work for the city of Hartford? You work at Cigna, almost as if the city of Hartford was a place that was not as desirable of a place to work, right? My hope is for us to be able to shift organizational culture for people, particularly people who live here, to be super proud to be able to do work that's going to impact their families, residents here in our communities, right? Also looking to promote, obviously, equity, which is very different from equality. It's giving people what we need, what they need, not necessarily giving people the same thing, and inclusion for employees and leaders across departments and through each phase of the employee life cycle. So from the time you come in the door to the time that you are going up for promotion, making sure that you're prepared, making sure that you're proud, and that you're ready to really be able to represent and serve our city well. Next point, please. And so our goal is to ensure that the city is actively promoting diversity and inclusion in the hiring processes across city operations and in partnership, really close partnership with our Human Resources Department and in alignment with our 6 boards and commissions. And I'll talk more about our boards and commissions in a moment here. Next point, please. So we're really focused on creating a welcoming work environment for approximately 1,700 employees across over 13 operating departments in the city of Hartford. If you think about it, we have folks working at the city of Hartford literally in every sort of job function that you can think of, which is really unique, right? So we have folks, we have the mayor, right? We have members of city council, we have the town clerk's office, we have folks in DPW, we have, you know, really just a vast, broad pool of employees, which I think is incredibly unique to a municipality, different in a way that it was at Cigna, different from my time in the Girl Scouts, different from my time in nonprofit. Just really, and when you think about equity in an environment like this, it is incredibly meaningful. Next point, please. So our mission is really to recruit, retain, and develop City of Hartford employees to connect with and deeply care for our diverse colleagues and our community members, right? And so you all know the City of Hartford is, you know, an immigrant city. It's an old city, right, with amazing architecture, and we have lots of development that's happening. We have people who are coming in. We have people who've been here. We have, you know, just incredible, you know, pockets of poverty, right, and also pockets of wealth. And so as we're thinking about what does that look like for us to be able to serve all of our city, all of the people who live in our city, there's going to need to be really this competency around inclusion for that to happen well. Next point, please. And so I am really looking to reinforce the City of Hartford's values, skills, capabilities, culture, and collaboration, right, to best serve our residents. Like, how can we work together to make sure that we're making sure that our residents are getting the best services from the police department, the best services from folks in City Hall, the best services from community engagement? How can we make sure that that's happening for everyone who is a resident of our city? Okay, next slide, please. And so this is really, this makes me happy to see this all cleaned up like this, right? Because the other slides have more words on them, but this is like, oh, like here are the categories of work, right, that we're mostly focused on. So boards and commissions, I think, are critically important, and kudos to the person who was approved this evening for the permanent commission on the status of Hartford women in service leadership. The boards and commissions, I really am looking to utilize them as sort of like the arms into the community. And if you understand this office, right, myself, and there's a Kim Taylor who works in support of this office as well, we are looking at the City of Hartford internally, right? So people hear this, you know, Office of Equity and Opportunity, oh, this must be like a citywide thing, right? Not possible, right? And that's not exactly what the role is. But I do think that there are incredible opportunities for partnership for us to go out into the community and as a capital city, even to be exemplary for our state in terms of what can be possible around creating equity around initiatives and things that are happening within our community. So I look at our boards and commissions. We have some incredibly talented people from so many different backgrounds who are bringing many different voices and perspectives that are well needed for the work that I do internally, but also for the work that's happening externally with the boards and commissions. The Permanent Commission on Status of Hartford Women, they just had some incredible forums thinking about women in a post-COVID environment and what has happened around like the workforce and housing and education. It's just great work that's happening there, important work that's happening there. So continuing to look at boards and commissions as my arm and my reach into the community. Also, in terms of categories of work, we are looking to really upskill our leaders and our managers, right, with targeted departmental initiatives. What HPD needs, what Hartford Police Department needs, are not the same thing as what the Department of Public Works needs, right, like around professional development and upskilling and thinking about their job in ways where they can be more inclusive and create greater equity, right? So to that end, I'm also partnering around professional development and learning, which is, like I said before, something that I'm incredibly passionate about. I actually, Nat Gale, who was on here earlier, he and I are partnering with Leadership Greater Hartford to work on some leadership development within the city of Hartford for our employees as well, right? And then thinking about external partnerships. I think that nothing happens by accident, and my world is always converging with folks, whether it be my work at Trinity or, just folks who are over at Wheeler Clinic who are doing, health equity work. Or there are just so many opportunities and chances for us to be able to partner as a capital city with other folks who are doing great work. For instance, even this summer, we partnered with Capital Community College in order to promote our Vista Summer Internship Program, right? I had a great conversation with the president of Capital Community College, Duncan Harris, and, he was just like, hey, we're here, whatever it is that we can do in order to provide support and to really promote the city of Hartford as a great place to work, a learning environment for our students. Like, we're happy to do that. And then in green, what most people think about when they think about D&I, right? Food, flags, and fun, right? So just really thinking about how we can create ongoing citywide engagement and partnership, like with Janice Castle's department, in partnership with other folks as well, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Councilman LeBron, if you would, please. All the words. Okay. All right, so I'm going to, I'll give you a broad view, right? This is, and like I said, this is very much a draft, but when I am thinking about a center of excellence and what the actual scope of our work is in terms of, like, what are we responsible for? What are we going to deliver? What are we going to do for City of Hartford employees and for our residents? Because much of this also overlaps. So the first category is really HR partnerships and compliance, right? So I very much serve as a thought partner on recruitment, retention, talent management. I'm also the ADA coordinator for the City of Hartford, right? Like, that is, part and parcel to my role, making sure that folks have everything that they need in order to be able to be productive and to be proud and to, show up and do what needs to be done in order to keep our city moving. Also, the EEOC process is under the Office of Equity and Opportunity, but currently it's being housed in Human Resources. So we partner on that. But it's not just looking at EEOC complaints and saying, okay, how do we resolve this matter? It's also looking more broadly at trends to say, like, what is causing this, right? And how can we implement things within our organization that can help to maybe even reduce the number of instances where folks are feeling as though they need to file EEO complaints, right? I've also been working on compliance training, like ADA training, which is mandatory for city employees who are public facing, and also a sexual harassment training course, right? And I'm super proud of the numbers that HR and I have been able to partner to produce around that sexual harassment training completion, right? When I pulled the numbers a couple of months ago, we are well at 90% in terms of completion for that course, right? And that's a self-directed course that's tailored to the City of Hartford. We also have development and engagement for employees. Metro Hartford Alliance sessions that are being offered around diversity, equity, and inclusion. I make sure that I share that out with our colleagues. Looking at LinkedIn courses to see, hey, is this a resource that we can utilize for City of Hartford employees? Google also has courses for upskilling. We also have a vendor called Target Solutions, where you can go and do courses on Excel if you want to get better at that, courses in Word. Really important as we're thinking about retention and how people are moving through our organization. I'm also, because this is my space, right, like I'm a learning resource geek, I am reviewing those learning resources to see, what makes the most sense, what is the best quality for the investment that we're making around those sorts of things as well. And I talked to you a little bit about the Leadership Greater Hartford training, right? One thing that I learned as I was talking to employees when I first came on is that people weren't feeling as though they were recognized. I mean, in some of my one-on-ones, I've had several people talk to me about mugs, right? Like, oh, you know, when you work for the city of Hartford for X amount of years, they used to give you a mug, we don't get the mug anymore. So this administration is really interested in thinking about employee recognition and how we can make sure that people are being acknowledged for the great work that they do every day, right? And so boards and commissions, as I said before, also align to my office Human Relations Commission, the Commission on Disability Issues, the Permanent Commission on the Status of Hartford Women, the LGBTQ+ Commission, the Civilian Police Review Board, and I'll pause there because we've done some really great work and made some traction around, you know, getting the backlog down of the civilian complaints that have been filed, in terms of getting the members of the Civilian Police Review Board trained so that they can be voting members of that board. There's been a lot of great infrastructure work that I've been able to partner with the chair of that board, Eric Crawford, and our Inspector General, Beth Merkin, on, and that work is continuing. And then there's also an ask for us to restart the Veterans Commission, right? Which is something that Kim and I are being thoughtful about. I'm a measure twice, cut once kind of person, so I want to make sure that when we do a thing that it's quality and that we have direction in that. But that is something that's coming up as well, restarting the Veterans Commission. We also have the Commission on Aging that's aligned to our office. It's actually not technically aligned to our office, but we take it on. We think that age diversity is also something that's critically important. And then just a support structure for our boards and commissions and targeted membership recruitment, right? You know, it's a big ask to have someone dedicate that kind of time. And so we want to make sure that we're able to continue to have a pipeline of talent for that. Right? And then around communication, we are in the process of working on an annual report because we will be coming up on a year, right, at the end of next month. Just really encompassing all the work that's been done thus far, stuff that's happening on CPRB. I believe that there's also overlap on the Police Accountability Review Board, which is different because they impact policy, right, and make recommendations there that I think that my office is kind of squarely in the forefront. It's not aligned to our office, but there's an important tie-in there. We also did some work on the Municipal Equality Index, just having Hartford to be able to get a decent score with the Human Rights Campaign. They do that annually. And then also just reports on talent management, who's here, who's leaving, who's taking what job, that sort of thing, right? And then just office build out, right? CPRB needs a standardized report. And I won't get super granular here, but you know, we're creating something that's new, right? And we want to make sure that we're being really thoughtful because we're making city history with this office, right? The council putting forward a lot of resources that have been allocated to the area, and you know, it's really, this is an office that's incredibly important to people and has the ability to positively impact their lives, right? And also around partnerships, I'll just say again, part of this role is to make recommendations to the mayor, right? City policy recommendations. So we've done an updated grievance policy for ADA that is now on our website. 2 seconds, I'm just going to plug my computer in. Because technology is not humbling us that much today. Start right off. So city policy recommendations to the mayor. I talked about the ADA grievance procedure that had been updated and added to our website, and citywide event support. This year we were able to have an inaugural Juneteenth celebration, which was wildly successful, right? But there are just so many other things that we can be doing, and I would love to be able to partner with members of City Council. We're thinking about Hispanic Heritage Month, and I just had a conversation with some folks from the library about Indigenous Peoples Day and just seeing like what the opportunities are for partnership around programming in the city for things related to identity. We're a proud city, and I think that, you know, opportunities for celebration are critically important to this work. What else can I say? I'll say that some of the things that I am most focused on these days, outside of all these words, right? We are searching for a permanent inspector general, working on building out the CPRB infrastructure. This has the capability of setting a national precedent around accountability and around citizen voice, right? So we want to make acknowledged the Civilian Police Review Board has top-tier infrastructure. And also, I had recently received complaints around discrimination in a particular public space, and so I'm being really thoughtful and thorough in terms of investigating that and creating a process simultaneously, right, for us to be able to investigate reports of discrimination so people don't feel as though it just goes unheard, unnoticed, and not just looking at it in terms of, hey, addressing the individuals, but saying institutionally, what could we do? What could we put into place policy and practice-wise to prevent something like this from happening in the future? So I said a lot. Thank you so much, Councilman LeBron, for the invitation and for providing an assist here. And I'll just pause right now for questions if folks have any.
Councilman Rossetti.
First of all, it's nice to see you. You know, things have been a year of, let's hope we get back to more interaction. I thought that was a really well laid out, very thorough presentation. I'm having a little computer stuff and I may have missed this because it's a little crackly on my end. There's some asterisks by the Commission on Aging and the Veterans Commission. Remind me what that was again?
Yeah, so the Commission on Aging, I believe is typically aligned to Health and Human Services, but the person who has been holding the Office of Human Relations down, right, even prior to me coming on, Kim Taylor, she has been supporting that. And so we didn't give it back, right? I mean, we're beyond capacity, but I do think that age diversity is an important conversation, so we've decided to just keep that for now, right? I don't know what the future will hold. Maybe Leonie might hit me up after this and say, give it back, right? But I think that that's critical. So that's why it has an asterisk by it, because it's not officially aligned to our office. And then the other one was the Veterans Commission. We have been asked to get that restarted. It's been dormant for some time. And, you know, I think that veterans are a critical sort of like diversity group per se. And so we are going to get that back up and running, but we want to be thoughtful in how we do it just to make sure that there's like proper engagement and, you know, we're not asking people, particularly veterans, of their time without direction and purpose. So that's something that we are strategizing around in terms of relaunching that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Councilman Gale, so again, thank you, Director, for your presentation. Very detailed. It's good to kind of see it come into fruition because I think like in office like that, there's, you know, people's mind, you know, it's such a broad topic. So I'm going to ask, Councilman Gale has a couple questions and I'm going to ask he asked me to ask you for them and then I'll go to mine, okay? So these are Councilman Gale's questions. Are you involved with contract compliance at all?
I have not yet been, but that is on the long-range goal list because it consistently comes up, right?
Okay.
So I'm not currently involved in contract compliance. I will say, and maybe this is somewhat related, in terms of like the RFP process, for instance, the new Gulf Pro who will go into Goodwin, we were very intentional about putting language in about how critically important it is for that person to have an awareness of the community that they will be, you know, working in, supporting, and tying in sort of culturally relevant events within that public space. And so we'd like to do more of that, just kind of setting the stage and saying, even if you're not a Hartford employee, but you do business with the city of Hartford, like here are our expectations. Here's who we are, here are our values, and here are our expectations of doing business with us.
All right. And the second, thank you for answering that. And the second question is, are you responsible for monitoring the community benefit agreements?
No, I'm not. I would love to know what those are, so I'm happy to talk more, Councilman Gale, about that community benefit agreement.
Yeah, we can email you. We can talk about it later. But based at what the way that I understand it is like sometimes we enter an agreement with someone and they give us like a clawback or some kind of benefits. To, you know, in terms of minority contractors. I think that's what it is. Am I right, Councilwoman Rossetti? Community benefits?
I can't hear you. I'm having choppy.
Okay. All right, it's fine.
I'm
but
sorry.
we'll
I'm having
circle back.
choppy audio.
Service. Okay. All right. So we'll circle back on that, Director. Okay, Councilman Gale will. So I guess the broader question I have for you is a lot of times with initiatives like this, do you see it as having all of those words, as you put it, all of those jobs as it being baked in, or do you see yourself as a standalone initiative? Because it just seems like a lot of stuff. So, you know, so which one? It's baked in, right? Baked in. All right.
So I don't know if I would say baked in, right? But it is inherent in every city department already, right? So I look at my role as helping people to see the opportunity that they may not see in terms of creating greater equity within their particular department, if that makes sense, because it can't be housed in like my 2-person office, not every single thing, right? I really look at it in terms of like consulting with folks to say, okay, here is where we can be better. Here is where we can extrapolate broad themes to bring in particular resources. So it should be baked in, but I think that I might be the person who puts some of those ingredients in there. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. So with that being said, in terms of processes, right? Like I'm thinking if I'm director of this department, right? And I may have a blind spot towards this, right? So, I mean, I would imagine that maybe some folks would be more willing and say, hey, listen, can you help me out in this area? So that number one, how would that work? Would they just reach out to you, say, hey, listen, I need help with this? Or would that potentially happen?
It can happen anyway, right? So, you know, I am always open to having conversations with people who have an issue that they're looking to solve, or if there's a question that they're trying to talk through, work through. I'm happy to do that on an individual basis, or if people are looking for a resource or that I can connect them to around, like I said, learning and development is really my sweet spot. So yeah, people are welcome to email me. You know, I'm happy to have one-on-one conversations. I'm happy to have conversations, you know, about particular city departments and institutionally how we can maybe, you know, address some of the concerns that folks are having that might tie back to employee engagement or identity. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, it did. I just think, like, you know, since it's such a new position, I think the integration and how it acclimates to the overall broader municipality, you know, folks would have a harder time understanding that, particularly departments and people that normally would have a blind spot to this. So, how would, let's say, for example, Department A, right? And they seem to only hire certain archetype of a person, and it's like 90 to 95% of this archetype. How does the accountability piece come into play? How does that get flagged? How do you flag that? Or is it a process, or are you still developing that?
Yeah, I'm very much developing that process, and I think that this is like, I have like philosophically and like personally, right? Even if you think about who does what job, think about an airport, right? Like, who's the person who takes your bags? Who are the people at the ticket counter? Who are the people who are the air hostesses? Like, who are those folks, right? So there definitely is something around like biases in the folks that people hire, right? Because we've seen so-and-so historically successful in a role, right? But then there's also, I've also seen people struggle in trying to expand that pool, right? So for instance, like women within the fire department, right? So historically we know that men hold those roles. People who identify as men hold those roles more often. Like, you know, there's a component there where sometimes you sleep at the firehouse, right? Like, there are a lot of things that might be a deterrent for other folks to feel as comfortable and included in that space. And so, so yes, absolutely looking at who is working where and what that means in terms of culture, but also thinking about how we can create additional diversity and variety within a pipeline for folks coming through. So it's like, how do we create that space, and how do we create people, a pool of people who are interested in coming into that space? It's very much a dance.
Thank you. So, Director, thank you so much for coming to our meeting and presenting on this very important work in our city and in our state and in our nation. Really, like, you know, we need these opportunities to keep moving the needle in this direction. You know, I was just having a conversation earlier, you know, with the presentation. I'm not going into details, but talking about microaggressions and how they continue to happen and even in trainings and those type of things. And so as we got somebody overseeing those things, or kind of someone over the top to at least be kind of a watch person over that. That's wonderful. So with that being said, thank you, Director, for coming and presenting to us. Don't
Thank
be a
you
stranger.
again for,
Yeah.
starting. It's hard to start something, what you did. I mean, it's easy. I'm not going to say it's easy to come in when the blueprint is written, but I think what you've done to date, even though it's not a year, it may seem like a year at times, may seem longer. Really appreciative and very, very impressive. And I want to thank you personally from myself, and I'm sure my.
Yes.
Yeah. Can I just say that I really want to thank the City Council. I live in the city of Hartford, and I feel like I'm preparing a table for my children behind me, right? And so we have a council that was progressive enough to see the need for this and to create this and to allocate resources for this to happen. So thank you all so much, and thank you, Councilman LeBron, for inviting me. I'm a longtime fan, so this was fun.
Thank you for joining us. And so I won't hold you because I know it's getting late. So with that being said, thank you, Director, for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
All right. And with that being said, is there any other business, Councilwoman Rossetti?
I'm
All
good.
right. Seeing none, I take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Everyone had a good evening.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Bye.